Hello, and welcome to the 2025 Annual Meeting of Stockholders of Knightscope Inc. Stockholders who are logged in using their control number can submit questions by clicking on the message icon. It is now my pleasure to turn today's meeting over to William Santana Lee, the Founder, Chairman, and Chief Executive Officer and President of Knightscope. Mr. Lee, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm William Santana Lee, the Founder, Chairman, and CEO and President of Knightscope and Chairperson of today's meeting. Very happy to welcome you to this annual meeting. From the company, we also have Apoorv Dwivedi, our EVP and Chief Financial Officer and Secretary, who will serve as Secretary of this meeting. Before I call the meeting to order, Apoorv will introduce to you the other members of the board who are with us today.
Thanks, Bill. The other members of the board who are with us today are William G. Billings, Robert A. Mockney, and Melvin W. Torrey. I would also like to introduce Rich Bellucci, partner at BPM LLP, the company's independent auditor, who will be available to respond to appropriate questions. We also have on the line Michael Chiguya, a representative of Computershare Trust Company North America, who will serve as the Inspector of Elections at today's meeting.
I now call the meeting to order. We'll proceed with the formal business of the meeting as indicated in the notice of annual meeting and the company's proxy statement. I will now turn the meeting over to our CFO, Apoorv Dwivedi. Apoorv?
Thanks, Bill. The polls open today on September 8th, 2025 at 1 p.m. Pacific time for voting on the three proposals before the meeting. If you have not already voted and wish to vote, the polls will remain open until we finish presenting the proposal and close the polls. You do not need to vote during the meeting if you have already voted and do not wish to change your vote. On the virtual meeting webpage, you will find the agenda and the rules of conduct for the meeting. Note that only stockholders who are logged into the meeting using their control number will be able to vote and submit questions at today's meeting. If you would like to submit a question, you may enter your questions in the question and answer function on the annual meeting webpage or reach out to us at invest@knightscope.com. You must also include your name and email address, and if applicable, your organization with your question. We intend to respond to appropriate questions within a reasonable time after the annual meeting has concluded. List of shareholders and proof of mailing of notice of the meeting. I will file the proof of mailing of notice of the meeting with the records of the meeting. All stakeholders of the record at the close of business on July 17th, 2025, or holders of a valid proxy are entitled to vote at today's meeting. The Inspector of Election has a complete list of the holders of record of the company's capital stock on the record date for the meeting, and for the stockholders who have entered a valid control number. The stockholder list is also available for this meeting at the bottom of your panel screen, at the bottom of the panel on your screen. The Inspector of Election, Michael Chiguya, assigned the customary oath of office to execute his duties with strict impartiality. We will file this oath with the records of the meeting. The presence in person or by proxy of the holders of shares of stock having 1/3 of the vote, which could be cast by the holders of all outstanding shares of stock entitled to vote at the meeting, is required for a quorum. As of the record date of July 17, 2025, there were 8,185,615 shares of our Class A common stock and 336,759 shares of our Class B common stock issued and outstanding. Those were eligible to cast a total vote of 8,522,374 votes. 1/3 of the votes are necessary for a quorum, and Mr. Chiguya has informed me that more than 1/3 of the votes are represented at this meeting online or by proxy. I therefore declare that a quorum is present and this meeting to be duly constituted for the transaction of business. The stockholders will consider 3 proposals at today's meeting. The board recommends that stockholders vote for each of the nominees in Proposal 1 and for each of the Proposals 2 and 3. In Item 1, the election of each William Santana Lee, William G. Billings, Robert A. Mockney, and Melvin W. Corey. This is the first item on of business, is the election of each of these individuals. Once again, William Santana Lee, William G. Billings, Robert A. Mockney, and Melvin W. Corey to the board to serve until the 2026 annual meeting of the stockholders and until their respective successors are elected and qualified. The second item of business is the ratification of the appointment of BPM LLP as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2025. The third item of business is the approval of the first amendment to the company's 2022 Equity Incentive Plan to increase the available number of shares of Class A common stock available for issuance under the 2022 plan by 2 million shares. If you wish to vote and have not already done so, please vote now by clicking on the voting button on the web portal and following the instructions. You do not need to vote electronically if you have already sent in your signed proxy or if you have voted by telephone or internet. We will pause now for approximately 30 seconds before closing of the voting polls. The time is now 1:07 p.m. on September 8, 2025, Pacific Standard Time, and the polls are now closed for voting. The Inspector of Elections will count the vote. Based on the preliminary report of the Inspector of Election, 1, the election of each William Santana Lee, William G. Billings, Robert A. Mockney, and Melvin W. Torrey to the board to serve until the 2026 annual meeting of stockholders and until their respective successors are elected and qualified has been approved. Number 2, the ratification of the appointment of BPM LLP as our independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2025 has been approved. 3, the first amendment for 2022 Equity Incentive Plan to increase the number of available shares of the company's Class A common stock by 2 million shares has been approved. The final report of the Inspector of Election will be kept with the company's records of the annual meeting, and the final tally of the votes will be published within 4 business days. A current report on Form 8K to be filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. The formal portion of the meeting has now concluded. We hope you found this helpful. One final note, if you have submitted questions, we intend to respond to these questions within a reasonable time after the annual meeting. In closing, I want to thank all of our stockholders and everyone on the line today for your interest in Knightscope Inc. This concludes our annual meeting. Operator, you may disconnect the line.
This concludes the meeting. You may now disconnect.